the fly fishing shop in Welch's, Oregon. Snow on the ground today. It's low water, clear and cold. Not much fish around right now, so it's a good day to tie flies and examine products and let you folks know about what the good stuff is. I'm talking to you about Clear Creek UV resin from Hairline. It's a UV set resin. It's very much like epoxy, but you don't have to use a catalyst or air dry this stuff. You just hit it with a UV light and it's set. So it comes in two varieties. There's a flexible one with a yellow cap. There's a hard coat one with an orange cap. I use the one with the yellow cap and the flexible material to do construction on flies, such as cover up this area here where the bucktail comes over the shaft of the eye. That always comes apart when fish get to feeding. Guy doesn't want to stop and change flies, and the fish quit biting when it gets a bunch of hair sticking out. Doesn't look like a minnow anymore, and they just quit feeding on it. So I use the flexible stuff for construction, use the hard coat for finishing off the fly, and two great products. Hit it with the UV light, sets it automatically. Don't have to worry about the stuff running around and getting out of control. So now we're gonna coat the head on a small fly. Small fly meaning a fly the size of a Deschutes standard steelhead bucktail, and I'm going to use the hard coat resin. On smaller flies like Deschutes bucktails, when you finish off the head, UV is a good way to do it, but you want to use a dubbing needle to apply that UV resin with. So just squirt a little bit of it on your dubbing needle. Be pretty careful, because when you got enough, you got enough, and when you got too much, you got too much. When you got enough, you can always strip some of that back off. Actually, you could even put it back in the jug, but you can see what just happened there. So I got way more than I need. So I'm going to put part of that back on the bottle. I'm going to apply it to the head of the fly with my dubbing needle. I'm going to rotate the fly all the way around here and make sure that everything is coated. I want just a little bit more, so I'm just gonna rub my dubbing needle through there. Put just a little bit more on there. You don't want it soaking up in the hackles. You want just the right amount. So when you get it just right, you take your UV light real quickly so it doesn't run around the hackles. And since this is just a small area, you don't have to use the light for very long. So that's already set up there, and it's a good job, and that part of it's done. There you've got a perfect head, and it's coated with the hard coat, so it's going to stay that way. There'll be a lot of material missing off of this fly after you catch a dozen steelhead with it, but the head will be just like it is now. This stuff is very, very durable. Ties durable flies. Now, every time you get done using this stuff, you want to wipe it off on a paper towel. You don't want this dripping all over the cap and all that kind of stuff like that. And make sure that this applicator is clean and free of debris. Then you put the cap back on it. It isn't necessarily going to set up unless it's got UV light on it, but it's always better keep any possible evaporation from happening. So here we've got our wire-bodied fly, and I want to coat that, keep the red from coming off the wire, you know, as it's banging along in the rocks. These flies are really heavy, so they get down in the rocks really quickly. I'm going to just take this this UV resin, this Deer Creek Fine Flex flexible UV resin, and I'm going to just spread some of it right on the fly. Okay? And we're just going to go right up that thing, clear to the other end. I'm going to let this resin soak clear through. Okay, I'm going to take my dubbing needle and I'm going to spread it around there a little bit. Now, you don't have to be in any hurry here because that resin is soaking right down into the wire. It's going nowhere at this point. However, at a certain point, we're going to reach a saturation where, you know, the resin is going to be clear through all that wire. It's going to be clear down, you know, to the hook shank, and it's going to want to drip. And we're going to want to make sure that we rotate this vise and this fly, make sure that you know, it doesn't sag anywhere. Starting to sag a little bit right there, and you know, we've got our UV light headed kind of out of play there, so I want to keep this turning. Okay, now it looks like it's all leveled out there, so I'm going to hit it with some UV. Okay, and this is going to set pretty quick because this is pretty thin. So there you go. That is probably the most durable, fastest sinking San Juan worm that was ever tied right there. So this is a pink and orange intruder, and you notice that it's got painted eyes on it, and they're bright pink. And you can see right here that there's some paint missing. This fly's been used a bunch. It's caught a couple of steelhead actually, and it's been banging along the bottom and it's got the paint chipped off. But there's a cure for that, and I'll show you what it is. Now here's a brand new intruder, and you can see it's got the same exact kind of eyes on it, and the same exact thing is going to happen to it. This fly here doesn't have as heavy eyes as the last one, but it's still going to get nicked up when it hits the bottom, and it's going to hit the bottom a little bit. Once again, we're going to use the UV flexible resin, and I'm just going to put a little dab on each one of these eyes here. Now here, guys, got to be pretty careful of what you do, because you can certainly get too much of this stuff on there very easily. Thing you got to know about this resin stuff too is that after you get it flowing, it flows a lot easier. So the first little bit, you want to go really easy, and you want to take your dubbing needle and you want to spread this stuff around, and especially over the top of the eyes, because these flies ride upside down because the weight is always on the bottom of the center of gravity, and so these flies will keel over, and it's this part of the fly right here that gets the main amount of abuse from the rocks. So give that a good coat, hit it with your light, and you'll get a lot more use out of a fly where the eyes have been coated like this. Now, I use the flexible coating on these eyes. I really can't tell you whether the flexible coating is better than the hard stuff or vice versa, but I know they're both better than not having anything there. So there you go. I'll bet we all wish that flies would last forever. Well, they do, of course, if you leave them in the fly box, but once you take them fishing and catch a bunch of fish with them, almost all flies deteriorate fairly quickly. A lot of fish have teeth, even trout, dorados, tarpon are famous for being hard on flies and tackle. So you come home and you got a box full of flies that were too valuable to throw away, and maybe you might want to repair them. I got a whole bunch of marked sardinas that the eyes come off. The reason the eyes came off is because they were all put on a sheet that had something sticky on the back of the eye to hold the eye in place. You know, and if you take some, a napkin, or a paper towel, and put some rubbing alcohol on it, you can take a lot of that sticky stuff off. The sticky stuff, of course, remains sticky even after you put it on a fly and coat it with the epoxy or whatever, then there's still a sticky place there. So what I like to do is I put a dab of UV resin right where the eye had come loose. Take the new eye, put it right in the place where the eye came out of there. Take your UV light and light it up. The UV light will shine underneath that plastic eye, and the UV resin will harden up, even though you're not shining it directly, you're shining around the edges. So there you go. Now you got the thing stuck in place. But quite frankly, that still won't cut it. So matter of fact, if the builder of this marked sardina fly had epoxied the eye in place by going over the top of the eye with epoxy, it never would have come off in the first place. Fact of the matter is, that didn't get done. So I'm going to recoat this head with UV resin, flexible resin, and then I'm going to rotate my vise so it flows around and levels out a little bit there. I'm going to do that for several seconds. So now got the resin is all leveled out, float around the hook. I'm going to keep turning this fly in the vise, and I'm going to hold my UV torch right on that, and now that resin is cured over the top of the eyes. There's actually a layer of resin over the top of the eyes, and these eyes now will not come off. So there's at least another 10 dorado can be caught on this fly. It's probably already caught 10 dorado. That's probably what made the eyes come off in the first place, but now the head is coated with this UV resin. They're not going to come off again. Thanks for watching. That's it. It's easy. Nothing the matter with easy. Have a good time tying flies. Hope to see you on the water. Thanks for watching.